We don't know how they play with them. We don't know anything about, I guess, the development, how it changes their relationship, anything like that. So we've got loads of questions. And so I guess what I'm imagining is that we kind of won't realize, like, I think it's just going to kind of slip its way in, and we'll kind of,
Yeah.
we'll be 10 years down the line and be like, oh my goodness, all my kids' toys are AI powered. I don't know.
So welcome to TechTots, episode 4. And we're going to dig into the world of AI-powered toys. And I'm really excited to be joined today by Dr. Emily Goodacre, who's a research associate at the Faculty of Education at the University of Cambridge. And we're going to really try and start asking questions of like, what is an AI-powered toy? Are they here now? When are they coming? What are the opportunities here? What are the risks? And we're going to kind of try and finish with a few kind of tips for parents of like questions you might want to ask and some advice for how to navigate this kind of AI toy shop. Pleased to have you here, Emily. I wondered if you could just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your research on this area.
Oh, yeah, thank you for having me. So I come from a background as a developmental psychologist, so I'm not kind of a tech person, don't have that AI background. My research kind of mostly focuses on children's social play, their relationships. But we've just got started, this is just a couple of months ago, got started on a new project around children's play with these AI toys, partly just because they're just starting to come out now. And because they're just starting to come out, we don't know, I guess, the impact they have on children. We don't know how they play with them. We don't know anything about, I guess, the development, how it changes their relationships, anything like that. So we've got loads of questions and we just want to find out the answers to them. My background is as a developmental psychologist, but I'm starting to learn a bit about AI now.
Brilliant. And you're also a mum who's sort of in that world of navigating this new future as well. Can you just start by just telling us, like, what is an AI-powered toy? Like, can you give some examples maybe of the types of toys you've come across, if they fit into a few buckets or different types?
Yeah, so a few that I've come across, they kind of tend to be like, especially the ones aimed in the early years, they tend to be like cuddly toy type things. There's one, for example, where it's kind of got a zip in the back, and then there's kind of a box that goes inside that essentially does the techie side of it, but essentially a cuddly toy with a zip in it. There are some that are a bit more robotic, some that have got kind of screens, some that are on wheels. But I think those ones aimed at really young children, which are the ones that I'm most interested in, are kind of cuddly toy animal type shapes.
And what's the
I
AI in
think
them? Like, what does it tend to do? What are the types of things that the AI is telling, or at least pretending, or at least saying it will do?
that I think there's a lot of variability there. There's one toy that I'm quite interested in, which it's essentially like a chatbot. The child says something to it, it has a conversation, and it's kind of entertaining, I guess. It's the same as how we might talk to like ChatGPT. There's another one which I think is quite interesting, that it's a bear and it's got an accompanying smartphone app, and you kind of on the app, you kind of tell it what types of things you might like in a story, and then the bear creates a story and tells the child that story. So I think, yeah, some of them are kind of more conversational, some of them are kind of creating stories. Some of them claim to do a lot, have kind of apps like you might imagine on like an Alexa and that sort of thing, kind of lots of apps, lots of different features. So there is quite a bit of variability on what we're seeing coming out at the moment.
Yeah, and it's changing fast, isn't it, as a field? And maybe what do you think are the most kind of interesting kind of questions that you're grappling with in your research on this? Like, what are the big questions that you see from a research perspective?
So the big one at the moment is just what's already been researched, which is kind of a research question about research. Is like what do we know and what do
Very
we not know?
classic academic response.
Um,
It's a good to start with. What do we already know?
no, step one is just we kind of don't want to be repeating. If we already know the answer to something, kind of finding out what we know is helpful. And then another question I think is quite important is, where do people that work with children, where do parents, where do children themselves kind of see these toys fitting into their lives? What concerns do they have? I think kind of just how they feel about them. I think some people are quite excited, like the toys might kind of provide various benefits to children or kind of help in certain ways, and people are excited about that. But there's also, I think, going to be a lot of caution out there, and kind of people kind of a little bit skeptical about this is something that's new and we don't know a lot about it. So I think that's going to be an interesting one. We're actually at the moment kind of starting conversations with people that work with children, with parents, with children. So it's going to be really interesting to see, what comes out of those and what people are thinking about.
Yeah, and I should probably disclose, as a member of the kind of expert advisory group for the project, I mean, I think the conversations we've been having on that group are really interesting because it's probably like maybe sort of 70-30, like worried versus excited, with a bit more cautious, maybe even more than that. I don't know. There's definitely a lot of unanswered questions and things that we're unsure about. Is this a good thing?
Yeah, I think it's quite easy to be really, really cautious, kind of because we see a lot
Mm,
in the news that's worrying stuff. It's also quite easy to be really excited because we've got all these like marketing coming out and all these,
yeah,
big claims. And I think, having that balance of like healthy skepticism, but also kind of being aware there might be some good things that could come
yeah.
out of them, going into it with the right mindset. So yeah, that balance of what we think they might be useful for and what we think that they might not be useful for.
Yeah, and I think it's really super interesting. I mean, and thinking about it sort of more as a parent, like, what do you think the most important questions are on this? Like, what are the things that you think we should be asking questions as a parent?
I guess one of the things, and this isn't, oh, well, you asked as a parent, I'm going to say it's not part of my developmental psychology side at all,
Yeah.
but just around kind of um, how I can support my daughter to think critically about technology more widely, to think critically about them. Like, I would like her to be able to be independently kind of interacting with technology, with AI in the future, and to be able to kind of have the digital literacy to know, well, this is what it can do and this is what it can't do, and this is where its limits are, and this is what I should and shouldn't do with it. I think as a parent, kind of knowing how to support a child to learn those skills is quite difficult to know, because I think as parents generally we don't have the same exposure to technology that our kids do. She's
Mm,
growing up with technology that I didn't grow up with, so it's how do I support her to have a healthy relationship with these toys, with AI in her life, in her education. I think that's the big question for me as a
mm.
parent. It's not
Yeah,
one that
it's
I'm
interesting, isn't
gonna.
it? We sort of try and we know it's an important job as a parent to kind of help our kids navigate, streets and cars and cross roads safely. It's almost like another version of that, isn't it? It's like, how do we,
Yeah,
there's a new technology on the block and it's not a car, it's these AI, various forms of AI in our lives. And how do we actually help get kids ready to navigate those kind of, mean streets of AI? It's kind of interesting.
yeah.
Do you have any sort of sense of where we might be on in 5 or 10 or 20 years on this stuff? I mean, that's a big question, but I just wondered if you had any thoughts about kind of where the field might be going from what you've read so far and what you're doing so far in the work.
Yeah, I think this is definitely an I don't know question. I think one of the things is, because I'm very much on the how are these toys influencing children side of things and not the kind of how are they being developed side of things, um, it's really difficult to know. One thing that I was thinking about is just how often I'm seeing like children playing with like virtual assistants and kind of that's already in their homes. And I think we kind of as people, as parents, have already kind of invited these types of tech into our homes. And so I guess what I'm imagining is that we kind of won't realize. Like, I think it's just going to kind of slip its way in, and we'll kind of,
Yeah.
we'll be 10 years down the line and be like, oh my goodness, all my kids' toys are AI powered. I don't know. So that's kind of what I'm imagining. But yeah, whether that's founded in reality, whether these things will take off, I guess is a different question.
Yeah, I think you're totally right. I think there's this, I think one of the things we've talked about before is this question of like, is it AI powered toys or is it AI that children play with? And there's a sort of bit of overlap, but there's, if you're playing with a chat GPT that a child's playing with an app on a phone that's a parent's phone, it's not a toy, but it can be used very playfully. And as you say, I think that's almost the only thing that we can be really confident of, is that these things are going to be kind of more of them. They're going to be in more aspects of our life. And possibly that at this point, that maybe we won't notice them as much. It's almost like the shock of the new at the moment, but actually we're heading into sort of a world where we do just sort of coexist with AI. Um,
Yeah, and I think we see it so much. I mean, just I guess this is more as a parent, like kind of going to like friends' houses and seeing other kids and kind of the play with Alexa, quizzing Alexa, getting Alexa to do maths, like all of that sort of thing. Like that's like play with AI. And it's very different from kind of playing with an AI toy. But I think yeah, we already have this stuff. Kids are already playing with it. I think it's more just the marketing towards kids and the designing it towards kids, which
Mm.
potentially is an improvement. Like it's potentially got more safeguards in place. It's potentially more child appropriate.
Should
If
be.
done correctly, should
Yeah.
be. Yeah.
But it's interesting. I mean, I think one of the challenges there is that I don't know whether you've looked at this yet, but there's not a lot of regulations in this space, are there? Because it's so new.
No, I mean, this is always, I guess, in the same way that we as parents kind of don't know as much about the stuff as our kids do. I think policy always takes so long to catch up on these things,
Mm.
and by the time it's caught up, we're on to the next thing. No, it's
Yeah.
definitely really difficult.
I mean, so I know there obviously is a big evolving thing around kind of Online Safety Act, and this in the UK at least there is a whole set of AI draft regulations, but they really rarely talk about children actually. I remember when we looked at this from Tandem Early Ideas end of things, we basically concluded there's rules to say that digital and AI toys for children shouldn't electrocute them and shouldn't like choke on them, but there's actually nothing about whether they should sort of hack their developing brains, and there's just no regulation on that because I suppose the regulations weren't built when that was a even thought capable. So there's a bit of a gap there. And I guess one other question on, sorry, did you want to jump in on that?
No, no, go for it. Carry on.
No. I mean, one other question on that is how do you find this as an academic, like engaging in this field because it's moving so fast? Like,
It's a really interesting one because this we're doing a 1 year project, and you would think 1 year that's quite quick for research. We're going to
yeah,
do the stuff, we're going to get it out there, but already things are changing and things are moving. I mean, I've been doing this for 2 months. I've been doing some like searches of the literature, and every time I do the search again, more results have come up. And suddenly I'm kind of going, okay, that's more to read. And that's really exciting. But it's also like things are changing so fast. We've been trying to, I think, kind of future proof, like, I think this was something that we had spoken about before, that like kind of future proofing will, let's not ask questions about some particular toy or some particular technology. Let's think about the long term, kind of what this might mean for children, what this might mean for families, um, and try and think about technology that's likely to come out in the future. It's really difficult to kind of
yeah.
predict. But I think that's one thing, is kind of making sure the questions we're asking aren't going to be irrelevant by the time it's published or by the time we've finished the research.
Yeah, totally. Really hard. And it's one of the reasons why myself, I'm still in academia, but really moved into that world of trying to build technology because that challenge of kind of keeping up in with all the constraints and kind of culture of academic and it's good. It's sometimes good we do slow research. Slow research can be good research, but it can also make it hard to research fast-moving things, whether that's a pandemic or a really rapidly evolving technology. Um, I want to kind of move us on a bit to really thinking about parents who might be listening to this podcast thinking, I am a bit overwhelmed by this. I don't even understand like what exists, let alone like what's going to exist in 6 months or what, thinking ahead to Christmas this year, what might someone be given as a Christmas gift or a birthday gift this year as a toy? What would you ask if you were going shopping for an AI toy for your child, or if you'd been given one by a sort of, you know, family member or friend who'd given something? What questions would you ask as a parent?
I think the one, so as a parent, and again, this is probably very different from as a researcher, but as a parent, I think my number one thought would be around making sure that my daughter understands the kind of privacy elements of it. So the fact that it's listening to what she says, that it's transmitting what she says to a company. And my daughter's 2.5, so the kind of understanding of that is going to be limited. It's going to be kind of a I guess at her level conversation. But I think that would be one of the main things that I would think about. And I guess that's a wider conversation about things already in the home as well, right? Like these toys aren't the only thing that's listening to
Yeah.
her
Your phone's
in the
got an always
home.
on microphone, probably,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. And like, I mean, video doorbells are always the classic one. Like,
Yeah.
it knows when you're coming home, when you're leaving, those types of things. So I think it's part of a wider conversation. But I think as a parent, that's something that is important to have that discussion about and make sure that she's kind of aware of. I think as a researcher, potentially I'd be thinking a little bit more about the kind of the claims that are being made, on the box that, oh, this is going to help your children make friends. This is going to help your child improve their maths. I don't know, whatever it is that they're claiming to do. Just having that kind of skepticism about those claims. These toys haven't been out for very long. We've talked about how kind of slowly research tends to move. Like research, there's not research to back these up. And so I think having that kind of level head, a healthy level of skepticism about them. And then potentially, I guess, depending on which way you naturally fall, if you're more of a, I think I'm definitely more kind of technologically skeptical. I kind of tend to hold back a little bit more. So maybe also kind of being like, what, it's probably not the end of the world. It's probably okay for my child to play with toy for a little bit or whatever it is. So yeah, trying to, I guess, maintain that balance is something that I think is probably quite helpful.
Yeah, I think those are really good pieces of advice. I mean, I guess the other questions I always ask is like, who built this? In the same way that when we were looking at academic paper, we do try and work out who's written the paper, what, as well as looking at the methods, we try and work out if they're from a legitimate institution and have a decent track record. I think I want to know who's built the toy. I also do, as you say, you want to know what's this toy collecting? I think that's one of the interesting things. Toys have generally traditionally been a sort of passive thing. They have buttons and make noises. This is a two-way thing. So what information is it collecting and where does it go?
And why?
And why?
I think the why is a big one. Are they using it to make money? Are they selling it? Is it to train their model? Can it be deleted? Like kind of how easy is it to request for it to be deleted? All those types of things, I think. They're probably wider questions beyond these toys, but yeah, I think the why is a big one.
Yeah, and what's it actually aiming to do? And what's it, as you say, what's it trying to do? Is it purely trying to entertain? Is it claiming and pretending to and aiming to teach? But yeah, even before that, like I think I want to know who built it and what what are they collecting? But I think if people are listening and have other ideas, I think this is a really underexplored area. Is like the kind of consumer's guide to navigating AI toys is something we're going to have to societally kind of build. So maybe we can start with the first draft. Quick checklist for parents. Interesting. I want to go on to a quick fire round now because we're trying to keep these podcasts super quick because we know that particularly parents everyone's time poor, but especially parents. So a couple of quick fire questions that may not have the quickest of answers because they're quite tricky, but we'll see where we get to. First one. Do you think we are heading for more of a kind of tech utopia or a tech dystopia?
I think I have to lean dystopia, but I want to do the level-headed thing and say somewhere in the middle. But I think I do lean dystopia.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of interesting. I am squarely in the middle. Well, actually, my take is it's to be determined. I think it could easily go to dystopia. And I think all of our jobs is to try and actually move us towards the utopia and the things that can add to human capital and human development and try and stamp on all the things that are dystopian. But I whether we'll get there is a much harder one. Anyway, I'm making it not quick. Second question. Would you rather be in a soft play area or in the virtual reality metaverse?
Soft play, hands down.
Soft play, hands down. They can be pretty noisy.
Hands down, easy.
And actually, we promise we'll explain all tech terms that come off. So I'm going to give a quick definition of a metaverse. So a metaverse is a virtual reality space which users can interact with a computer-generated environment and, crucially, other users. So it's a sort of virtual reality universe. And one of the most terrifying things, I think, is this idea that children will spend more and more time, in younger children even, in a virtual universe rather than the real world. So yeah. I'm with you, even though soft play areas can be pretty exhausting. Third one, if I said to you we could have AI parenting kind of co-pilots, would you be in a yes, no, or maybe?
I think a yes, as long as it's kind of research backed, like kind of a yes with conditions, if that makes sense. Like yes, but it's been trained to do these sorts of things, not a ChatGPT co-pilot, definitely not that.
So not like a general purpose thing that's for the everything machine, but actually something that's, yeah.
But I think it could be, I wouldn't rule it out. I think done well, it could be a great idea, but it would have to be done well. Not done by some for-profit I don't want a Google parenting co-pilot. Definitely not.
Yeah, interesting. It's. I mean, I think there is a difference of, what's interesting is whether we'll get these sort of specific purpose tools or whether we will get these sort of AGI, which is this idea of kind of a sort of can do anything, kind of artificial general intelligence is that is could be that. But you're a skeptic on that side. Good to hear. Um,
Yeah.
Final question for me. Is there anything I haven't asked you that I should have asked you about your work or your thinking on this area that you want to kind of share before we wrap up?
No, I think we've had quite a, especially for an area that I've only been working in for a couple of months. I think we've talked about most of what we can. I'll come back when we've got some results and some solid findings and tell you about them.
You've preempted my wrap up in that I was going to say, please, can you come back on when we've got some findings? And I think it's interesting. The methods you're using are going to be a combination of both talking to parents and providers, but actually also observing children in a kind of controlled environment, interacting with these toys. So it's going to be really interesting to see actually what children think of these questions and how we can kind of understand the nature of their interaction with them. So yeah, we will. If it's all right, we'll invite you back on then.
Yeah, brilliant.
Brilliant. Thanks so much, Emily. I think it's been a really, really fascinating kind of dive into this world of AI powered toys. And hopefully we'll leave the listener with some ideas of what questions to ask at least. Thanks so much. And we'll be in touch soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me.